Do you struggle to be around people who are very negative? Is it a real challenge for you to deal with negative people? That's really the topic for today, and I'm going to talk about that and share an experience I had with that that really taught me some important lessons about negativity. You know, it is normal, it is human to be negative sometimes. It is absolutely a human thing. We are all, even people that say they're so positive, generally have a negative side to them. There are times we go through challenges in our life, we go through loss, we go through frustration, and we're going to be negative sometimes. You know, my mom was one of those people that talked about when I was young. She always said, "Oh, I'm so positive." And it's like I think she was trying to convince herself, because as she got older, I realized how much negativity my mother actually had. As I got older, I realized that my mother actually was very negative, especially as she got older herself. And so she had, I think, been trying to pep herself up by saying she was so positive, when in actuality, she had a negative streak and it got bigger as she got older. And I also have been negative at various times in my life. I mean, I'm not the most negative person by any means. I couldn't do this channel if I was. I couldn't be motivating if I was. But the thing is, I am a realist. I am a realist, which means that I look at things as they are. I don't pretend there's something they're not, and I don't think the worst of them all the time. So I'm in the middle, basically. I'm not a super positive person, and I'm not a super negative person. And I can be really positive sometimes about certain things. Well, the experience I had took place probably after I'd been a bereavement counselor for about 2 years. And I got assigned this client who was really struggling with the death of his wife. They had been married about 30 plus years, and I believe she had died of cancer. And he was alone in the world. He didn't have any other family. They had one grown daughter, he and his wife, who from whom he was estranged. He did not have a relationship with her. And that was very sad, because he did reach out to her, after his wife died, after her mother died, and it just did not work out. So he was struggling with his grief because he really had no support system. And so I became his support system. I saw him about once a week for about 8 or 9 months. The maximum time we could work with people was 13 months. But 8 or 9 months was a pretty solid chunk of time to work with somebody. Well, he was not an unpleasant person. In other words, he wasn't rude, or, he had manners and stuff like that. But it's just that he saw the world as negative. Like if I went in and said to him, "Oh, it's a beautiful day out, the sun is shining, the sky is blue, it's lovely temperature," he would find something negative to say about the day. Like he couldn't just enjoy even a little smidgen of something good. And so it was a challenge. I went through 8 or 9 months of challenging visits with this guy. I would sit with him for an hour, hour and a half. I would listen to him, but I would also bring up suggestions or thoughts on things or whatever. And as the months went by, I tried to, after his initial severe grief was abating to some degree, I tried to offer some hope to him that there could be other things that he could still do in his life. And he just rejected everything I ever had to say. I mean, anything I brought up, he found a reason why that wasn't going to work, or he couldn't do that, or, and it just became this exercise in frustration. And I remember after every visit with this guy, I would go out to my car, I would drive down the street where there was kind of a place I could pull over, and I would have the windows up and I would just scream for a couple minutes. I would literally just scream out of frustration. That's how challenging the visits with this guy were. And, but I knew that he needed someone. He did need some help. And I was that person. At least he let me in. At least he would listen. And so I thought maybe something will get through to him. Well, after about 8 or 9 months of just an exercise in deep frustration, he finally said to me, well, I think, I don't really need you to come, by anymore. I've gotten as much as I can out of this. I appreciate your help, blah, blah, blah. And, so I went on my way. And part of me was relieved. I was actually relieved because it was like going into a black hole when I went into his house. It was so depressing. I mean, more than the average. When you do bereavement counseling, it's very depressing. And it was a very challenging time for me because I was going through a lot of grief and loss, and I was trying to help people who were going through grief and loss at the same time. So it was a challenging time anyway, but he was definitely one of the most challenging clients I ever had. So anyway, the visits came to an end, and, I wished him well, and I hoped deep inside that he would kind of find his way to at least have some glimmer of something good in his life. Well, months passed. I don't remember exactly how long. And I was approached by one of the hospice nurses, and she asked if I remembered this guy. And I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, he's on hospice service now. And she said he's dying of, I believe it was lung cancer. And he refused treatment. So he was, I think between the time he was diagnosed and the time he died was maybe only about 3 months. And so she said to me that he asked to see you. He wants you to come by and see him. And I said, well, of course I'll do that. So within the next week, I went over to the house to see him. And he had a caregiver there. And I went in, and he was already bedbound. He wasn't able to get up and walk around, or I think I might have seen him a week or two before he died. And I went in to see him, and he took my hand, which he had never done before. All those times I went to see him, he had never taken my hand. But he said to me, I wanted to see you to thank you, because it did help for you to come and visit with me once a week. He said, I know I never really told you how much it helped, but it did help because I knew I could count on that. I knew you would come here and you would be kind and you would listen to me and you would offer suggestions, even though I, knocked them down. And he said, I just want you to know how much I appreciate your help. And my eyes kind of welled up with tears. And his eyes had tears in them, and we just kind of sat there for a second. And it was amazing. It was an amazing moment because when you realize, when you do something to help people, you don't always know that it really helped them, after the fact. But in this case, he was able to tell me that it helped him, and that meant everything to me. And I was very sad for him. I was very sad that he developed cancer and was dying. But you know what? He was dying on his own terms. He really didn't want to live anymore. He was not the kind of person that ever would have killed himself. I had done, suicide assessments with him. He was never going to kill himself. But, he really just didn't have much of a will to live. And I did understand that. I did. And so, I said goodbye to him, and it was a very emotional moment. And about a week or two later, I got a message from the hospice nurse that he had passed away. And I kind of got tears in my eyes again and choked up about it. So why am I sharing this story with you today? Well, because I did learn something from this guy, okay? I learned, first of all, that even when things seem hopeless, that you're still maybe having an impact on somebody, as long as you stay with it and just care about them. If you just put an effort, in our society, there's a big emphasis on being so positive all the time and not being negative, and almost to a fault. We don't take into account that some people at some times are going to be negative, and that's okay. And we also don't realize that some people are probably always going to be negative, and that's just the way they are. And if we can do anything to help them, then why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we try to be kind to someone, even if they're very negative? Now, like I said, he was not abusive. He was not a horrible person to me. Maybe if he had been, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have gone over there. This was my job. We weren't allowed to be abused on the job. So that would have been a whole different story. But he wasn't. He was just a negative, miserable person to himself. And I did feel bad for him. I did feel sorry for him. And I did what I could. And I think depending on the circumstances in life, you know, I've done that other times, maybe not to this large a degree, but there have been other times too where I felt like I needed to be there for that person, even for a short amount of time, because maybe that's what that person really needed. And people push aside negative people very easily in the society we live in today. They're like, well, I'm just not going to deal with that, so I'm not going to talk to them anymore. And I think we're doing them a disservice, and I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. Now that's not to say you sacrifice yourself for a super negative person and give your whole life to that. No, I don't believe in that. I don't believe you should ever sacrifice yourself and your own sanity or well-being to help someone else. You help them with whatever you have to give. You help other people with what you have to give. And I think that that's the key. The key is understanding that and knowing what you're able to give. That's what's important. But I did learn something from this guy. First of all, I learned, it scared me actually. And I thought, I never want to be that negative. Honestly, that's kind of what I thought after the fact. I thought that was an object lesson in how not to be in the world. I'd never want to be that negative. And I fought against being that negative ever since, because it really, really taught me something important about that. But it also taught me to be tolerant of negativity when it arises, whether it's in myself or others, to realize that negativity has its place sometimes. And it's necessary. It's a necessary part of working through problems. It's a necessary part of getting to the other side sometimes. So it's a normal part of being human. So I wanted to share that with you today because I was thinking of this guy just the other day, and I thought, I really learned something. It's weird. I had so many clients over the years, and some of them I honestly have forgotten, but I never forgot this one. So to me, that tells me something. That is a lesson in itself. So I hope this has helped. If you have anybody negative that you're dealing with in your own life, that, to realize that you can be even a little bit of help to them, and that's maybe a big thing. And you're going to learn something in the process about yourself, about how you want to function in the world. It's all interconnected. So until next time, be well, be kind, keep moving forward. Take care. Bye.